WWE made some more news this week. They released, I think 10. They released 10 people starting on, I believe, Thursday or Friday. No, actually 11 if you go back to Tuesday. So Duke Hudson, NXT star, really good. I think he's kind of a first-round draft pick that just never really panned out. And so he might be a good reclamation project for an AEW, or I would say TNA would be a good spot for him.
Yeah, I agree with
that. Given their history of rehabbing guys like W. Morrissey, Steve Macklin, Drew McIntyre, a lot of the guys that have gone through that system over there, they went to TNA, lower profile, got to take some chances on their characters, got a lot of promo time. I think that would be a good landing spot for him, but he's a pretty good talent. I think somebody should take a chance on him.
He's sold, right?
Yeah.
He's stuck in NXT for a long time. He's not bad by any stretch of imagination. Just didn't work there, you know?
Yeah, didn't work. Sonya Deville, she'd been with WWE since 2015. Wow, 10 years.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, was released this week. She returned recently from her injury in May 2024. Formed the faction Pure Fusion Collective with Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. And she was actually in the Royal Rumble last week, and she got released. With her, I don't think she sticks with wrestling, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think she'll be doing some other internet content type of stuff. And she came in. I remember when she came in. And she was working this MMA fighter gimmick, but she wasn't really an MMA fighter. And then they signed Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, and Jessamine Duke, who actually had fights, and Marina Shafir. Now, Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir were not good fighters. But Shayna actually was. She was an OG of women's MMA. And then she comes in with the gimmick, and she had a job for 10 years, but she was exposed pretty fast. But not a bad worker, not a great worker, but just somebody that's been in the company for a long time, and they realized that they had gotten everything out of her that they can get out of her.
Decent promo. She did a decade there. I mean, like, realistically, especially if you're a female talent, you can pull 10 years out of that company. That's pretty impressive. It doesn't happen very often. So,
yeah.
But no, I'm Tony. I'm not touching her. Like, she's not that good.
No, not that good. Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering.
I forgot they were signed.
This is their second go around. Last time they were released, they started this fake company in Europe. It was a big crypto scam.
That was a work. The whole company was a work.
Yeah, man. It was just a big crypto scam. It was sponsored by some crypto company. They built it up, and then the whole thing just went away. And a lot of the wrestlers that signed on for that never got paid for their deposits. They never got anything. And the company just went away. Next thing you know, Authors of Pain are back into the WWE, even though they have heat with a ton of wrestlers for getting ripped off. And so I was surprised that they made it back into the WWE. When they were in NXT and their run, I thought they were a good tag team. I actually liked Authors of Pain. I was like, wow, these guys are pretty cool. But when they got released, they didn't do anything. They weren't working indies. They weren't doing any type of smaller shows, anything like that. It was like WWE or bust for them. They ended up getting hired back, and they couldn't win Triple H back over. He was there. Like, he was a big proponent of them, which is why they got brought back. Because Vince fired them first. Triple H takes over. He brings them back immediately. And then he just couldn't figure out what to do with them. And now they're completely gone. And I don't think they're ever coming back.
Because they weren't that good and they didn't have much heart. Like, they could have been really great. Like, that push, they got a monster push in NXT, as did the Ascension. So, I mean, like, it's hard not to get over in front of this Full Sail crowd back then when you were just murdering everybody. But they got up there and they really didn't like wrestling all that much. It was pretty obvious.
Yeah. And I believe one of them is actually a former MMA fighter too. Fought, God, I can't remember which one, but he fought Brandon Vera on one of the shows. But yeah, so they're gone. Paul Ellering's gone. I mean, his daughter works for Ring of Honor. Like, I like Paul Ellering. Like, anytime I can see him on TV, I'm happy. But I don't see anybody. I mean, he's in his mid 70s, right? Yeah. So he's not going anywhere.
He's had a great career. So Paul Ellering, man, I love Paul, man. The Legion of Doom with him cutting promos, so that was great shit.
Yep. Blair Davenport, she was also released. She was part of NXT UK. The formerly known as B. Priestley, Will Ospreay's ex-girlfriend. She did a bunch of time in Japan, and she did a little time in New Japan too, actually.
She did a little time in AEW as well. She was assigned, she was the first AEW talent to defect to WWE.
Really?
Trivia question.
I thought she was an AEW like dark level talent. I didn't think that
she was signed. She was really? She was signed and got released during the pandemic, and then she was an original member of United Empire, and then her and Will broke up, and she signed with WWE, and Will kind of went through his little spiral, and wound up coming out the better place with Alex Windsor. Seems like a much happier person now.
Yeah.
And she got her dream job in WWE and got cut because she really wasn't that great either. So
Yeah. I remember seeing her like I'll watch some like random like Stardom matches every now and then. I thought that she had some talent. I didn't really see much of her stuff in WWE because she just never really did much.
there's a reason.
Yeah. So she's probably somebody that I don't see AEW going for her. Now people think that AEW wouldn't touch her because that's Will's ex. I don't think that would be a problem. They probably wouldn't touch her because maybe she just doesn't fit in the company.
I think they might not touch her because she bailed on him the first time.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they released her during the pandemic, right?
I believe that's what the case. I believe they released her because she was stuck in the UK and couldn't go anywhere. So I think they released some of those people like, hey man, you can't work. Go ahead. But I do think there's some bad, like I know she gave Britt Baker a concussion in one of their first pay-per-views.
Okay.
So I think there's some heat in the company with her to begin with. And well, let's be honest, it's not like Will Ospreay not to get somebody he doesn't like booked.
Yeah, he does have that reputation.
So
so does she. She was a part of that, right? Like she was part of the whole story.
Yeah, she was. So it's probably best for everybody if she don't get touched. She'll probably wind up in Stardom again or something like that. Or
I could see her going back to Japan for a while. I think they liked her in Japan. She was just trying to look, we have to realize that 95% of all wrestlers, their dream is to go to the WWE. Mm-hmm. If they're from North America or even the UK. And if they're Japanese or Mexican, their dream is probably their home promotions there. But everybody outside of that, they're all their dreaming is about getting to the WWE. And so she got to go live her dream, but it just didn't really work out. IO Production says she was decent at NXT UK. I challenge you to name an episode of NXT UK.
Any episode.
I don't think anybody's ever watched it. So
I think our old Paul Fontaine probably watched every episode of NXT UK. Yeah, that's the only person I know that would have done that.
He probably has the Excel spreadsheet of like match number 7 of Blair Davenport and like what he gave a star rating. Yeah. And Isla Dawn, she was NXT UK. She was actually one of the WWE Tag Team Champions recently. Her and Alba Fire defeated Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill on a UK show, Clash of the Castle, and they immediately flipped it back because it was like from Scotland, so they just switched the title over there. So they flipped the titles back to Bianca and Jade, and we didn't really see much of them after that. And now Isla Dawn is gone. She's actually got some talent. I could see her getting picked up by somebody.
Yeah, she got a good look, so I could see someone picking her up. I could see her TNA specifically. I think this would be a good place for her.
Yeah, I don't know what TNA is like if they're going to be picking up a lot of people or not. They just had a battle royal on their show the same week the WWE had a Royal Rumble. TNA decides to have a women's battle royal, a knockouts battle royal, with 8 knockouts, which represented 85% of the entire division.
What better way to tell your fan base that you are subservient to the WWE than just running their playbook at a quarter of their playbook, actually?
Yeah, well, they didn't do the Rumble part of it. Yeah, they just did it.
Like I'm just being a dick.
It was the worst goddamn match I've ever seen. In fact, it was so bad. It was so bad. I sent Joe Lanza a message and I was like, Joe, you got to watch this match, and it's got to be in consideration for your worst match of the year. Because he's actually got like a running like log of the worst matches he's watching all year, and it's like this one's got to be right up there. Like you gotta watch this one. Norbert says Isla Dawn has heat with Tesla. Yeah, I did hear about that.
Who doesn't have heat?
Yeah. So it's like at this point, if you can't work with people you don't like, then maybe the job's not for you. But eventually you got to just be professionals, right? If you don't like somebody, you just got to figure out how to work with them anyway. Unless of course you feel like they're going to assault you or hurt you in any way. But if you just don't like who they are and they were mean to you back in the day, you guys got to figure it out. You got to be adults, right? And I said this yesterday on Brace for Impact. Look, I'm not a big champion of Tessa doing whatever. I just don't think that she should have been canceled for as long as she was. That's my only thing about it. I don't think she's going to continue pulling those shenanigans right now because she's on her last chance. And if she does, like, fucking get rid of her. But if you want a job, some jobs are going to have people that you don't like in them, and you just have to deal with it.
Just like the rest of us.
Yeah. Like I go to work regularly, and there's like, not in the current office I'm in, but back in my old office, there's like 3 or 4 people I just can't stand. right? But then I see them in the hallway. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Shake their hands. If they need anything, if they need a project work on, if they need help with anything, I'm like, that's the job. You still do it because you're a professional. Same thing in professional wrestling. And that's one of the things that, you know, I feel like AEW has a problem with. Like, they would just, like, if you have heat with somebody, it's like, let's just suspend you and then we'll give everybody the silent treatment and we're just not going to work together. And it's like, that's not really a good way to do business.
Yeah. Healthy environment. Like when you run it like that, I will never understand why they handle stuff. It's so passive aggressive and non-confrontational, the way they do business with things like that over there. It's unreal.
Yeah. One of the surprising cuts, which I guess I probably shouldn't have been surprised, is Cedric Alexander. He's a really talented guy. He's 35 years old, though. He's been in WWE a long time. I think he's another 10-year guy. And he was back in NXT. He had been kind of going back and forth between NXT and the main roster. He was on 205 Live for a while. They never really got behind the guy. He was in the Hurt business at one point. So a lot of people are pointing towards the Hurt Syndicate. Maybe he should join up there.
I could see it.
Yeah, I could see that too. I kind of like the Hurt Syndicate doing what they're doing as a tag team, though.
I do too. I don't think having a third would be bad, especially in a company that likes to, at one point anyway, thought it was a like to promote trio stuff. And I think Cedric's work style fits in really good with the AEW house style. So I don't hate that move, actually. It's of all these releases, I think he's the one you pick up.
He's the only guy that I think that they should pick up if they want to. Now, there's probably a little bit of residual heat there between him and Tony Khan from the whole Big Swole situation years ago.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But again, if you're a professional, you got to be willing to work with people that you might not like. Now, he came after the guy's wife.
Yeah.
Pretty stiff, but she accusing Tony Khan of being a racist was not cool. And the way he replied was pretty fucking uncool.
The whole thing was kind of fucked up, actually. Like, it was on New Year's Eve, very clearly. I don't know. It was it's not like Swole has worked anywhere since being released. You know? So I don't think he was wrong, but I don't think you say that. So I forgot about that. So maybe Cedric doesn't come to WWE.
Yeah, I think that would be the barrier, but they got to if so, they got to squash that, and Tony would have to be the bigger man there because he was probably the most wrong in the situation, and oftentimes the one that's replying, trying to win the argument that escalates the situation is the most wrong. I think he probably, from his perspective, he was defending himself against being called a racist. But what you did when you replied, saying, no, we released her because she's terrible. And that's the story. So years ago, I can't remember what it was, 2021, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. It was announced that Big Swole was released. And then on New Year's Eve, she did a podcast saying that she thought it was that the company she got released because she was black, right? And was kind of insinuating that Tony Khan was a racist. So Tony Khan did the whole "I have black friends," which never fucking works.
Well, and to be fair, Tony Khan is a minority too, so that was his whole thing. Was like, I am a minority. It's a pretty shitty thing to say, but it doesn't. I think what he ignores the fact that minority people can also be racist. Anybody can be racist.
Like, how can I be racist? I'm a minority. It's like, well, minorities are also racist. There's racism in all walks of life, and so. He responded.
I'm not a racist. She's bad.
Yeah. He's like, no, we released her because she sucks. That the whole thing. When now you're admitting that you're a liar because they called her and said, we're releasing you because of budget cuts. And so now your company's a liar and you also have racism allegations. And then now you're a dick because you're saying, no, we released her because she sucks. And look, Big Swole wasn't very good. Right. I think everybody can kind of admit that. Like you said, JD, she hasn't worked anywhere since. Right. If you're really good and you get fired, you automatically start getting bookings everywhere. Should you want to take them? And she just never did.
If you're average, you'll start getting bookings everywhere. But it just didn't work out.
Especially coming off of AEW television at the time when they were a hot company in 2021. So, Cedric Alexander, I could still see, even regardless of all that, I could still see him being in the Hurt Syndicate. Even though I think the Hurt Syndicate's a complete act, in my opinion. I like Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin being Dr. Death and Terry Gordy. I like that. I like them just killing tag teams. That's cool to me. And I think MVP is an awesome manager. I like the whole act. Yeah, I do too. And we got a couple more. Elektra Lopez, I'll be honest, they had to explain to me who that was today, but she's gone. So there you go. And the funniest of them all, which I don't want to laugh at people getting fired, but I did. So, we're here. The Good Brothers have been fired by WWE once again. And JD, it is time for Tony Khan to right the wrongs of the past. We need to see the reunion with the Good Brothers and Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They're the ones that take on the Death Riders. I think we all could see it. A Bullet Club reunion from 2013. I think that's the way to go, right? Like, we got to get the Good Brothers back in AEW. I think that's the move, right?
If there's two guys that are really, really good at taking a paycheck and not doing a goddamn thing, it is Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson.
Yeah.
And the fact they signed and they made a big deal, the Good Brothers were coming home and they immediately didn't do jack shit. Like, these are two of the workingest brothers you're ever going to see in your life. Like, what a collection of workers, like traditional workers.
Yeah.
Like,
so which means they fit in AEW, because AEW pays a lot of people to do jack shit. Yes, they have a lot of people on that roster doing jack shit. I think they could be another one of those people.
I would be surprised because remember the Good Brothers were supposed to be on the first episode of Dynamite back in 2019. And then they went, nah, we're not coming, which led to them kind of having to scramble and come up with Jake Hager. Not an upgrade. And then they did the thing with Kenny during the pandemic, which was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then they went back to WWE. So it's like, if I'm Tony, I'm like, and you see how hard they've worked. Like Carl Anderson got himself in really, really good shape. Like Carl Anderson, when they signed with TNA specifically, got in amazing shape, like jacked to the gills. I mean, like at one point, Good Brothers were an excellent tag team. Like 2015, they were fun in New Japan. I really liked them at that point.
Yeah, me too.
That's 10 years ago, man.
Yeah. So when they signed with TNA back in the day, I thought that was a big deal
at the time,
because they were, I don't want to say they were over in WWE, but they were an act that people thought that never really got their just due in WWE, right? Mm-hmm. And they were they were over with the boys, like the wrestlers like them because they're fun, and they are like they're probably like really cool guys to hang around.
Oh,
right?
I imagine that. Yeah, I imagine they're awesome guys to hang out.
Yeah. With. So they get hired on. They go to TNA and not AEW because of how they burned AEW on their way into WWE, and or I think they were about to leave WWE and they were going to sign with AEW. WWE talked them into re-signing. They ended up going back to WWE, burning AEW on the first episode of Dynamite, and then a year later they got fired anyway. Right. So that was the story. Tony Khan didn't forget that. So when it came time when they were free agents, they went to TNA, and Scott D'Amore paid them a lot of money.
Yes, he did.
I don't think I could say it on the air because I don't think it's but I've told you how much they were getting paid.
A lot of money.
A lot. It's like per person, they're being paid. Each individual is getting paid more than everybody in that company.
And this is an era when TNA was Skyway doing just TV tapings at Skyway Studios.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is not this era of TNA.
Right. And they had worked out a deal with Scott D'Amore, like should they sign another contract, and they were going to sign another contract with TNA, and WWE just came in and swooped them up. But they were going to get $100,000 more a piece on their next contract should they resign. You guys wonder why Scott D'Amore is no longer the president of TNA? I just like he was paying those guys just stupid money. Ooh. And I'll be honest, when they came in, they did bring a little bit of buzz to that company. They brought some the ratings spiked a little bit, but then it immediately went down. They had the whole thing with Kenny that was cool, but you can't even count 5 matches for them that they actually had good matches. And then like their last 6 months there, completely phoned it in, and they actually joked about how bad they were phoning it in on the way out. Right. So I don't think any company should be bringing these guys in. They should just go hustle the indies, do Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling in Canada.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like, and they weren't drawing anything at TNA. Again, nothing was really drawing at TNA, but for the amount of money that they were getting paid, like you expect them to get some attention to your company, and that just didn't ever transpire. Like, these are guys that I'm sure I don't know if Kenny would be advocating for the two of them at this point, but he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right. They are two guys who should not be in TNA or in WWE. They should, like you said, they should just be working indies, MLW, stuff like that.
Japan.
I
can see them going back to Japan.
Yeah, I'm sure Gato welcomes them back. But everybody else should because you're not going to get a good effort out of them at this point. Like they haven't put good effort in the ring in a long time.
No, they haven't. But man, so I did my whole tweet about the Good Brothers teaming back up with Kenny and the Young Bucks take out the Death Riders. And I was surprised at how many people A thought that was serious, but some people just don't understand my humor. And B, how many people agreed with the tweet. I had a lot of people retweeting like, this is a great idea. I was like, I hope you know that I'm just fucking around. I like to pick on AEW fans because they're very sensitive people. And I know that they would just be punching holes in walls.